So in quite a short space of time, you've gone from being a house husband to pretty much running a CIC with its own charitable constitution and all sorts.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so it was very quick and a very steep learning curve. You know, there's people out there who say, "Oh, there's loads of help for CICs and people to set up charities." It really isn't. When it really comes down to it, you just have to do a lot of research and work a lot of things out. Try not to make any mistakes. Because the funding that we're getting in and the donations that we get in and the kits and the amount of money everything costs and the money that we get in, we have to have some sort of governance to govern all that. All I want to do is give some people some fun model kits to make. That's all I want to do. And I end up being, you know, I have to work out PLI. I have to start doing, you know, all sorts of different DBS checks and things like that. You know, it becomes a bit of a drag when you get bigger. But yeah, in a very short space of time, we grew pretty quickly. So since 2017, by the end of that, I think we had about 3 different sessions at different places, and they were basically my mates were going along and running those sessions because I couldn't get to them.
Yeah, it's a big change for not just you as well, but also your family. Was there any point in like that 12-month period where you thought, "Am I making the right decision? Am I going to mess things up at home or something?" With the stress and things.
Because it was working so well, I didn't feel like it would be. I felt it was really important to push it from a home perspective, and I was really dedicated to getting it to work for others, and I was prepared to take my family through that sacrifice. I mean, I get a lot out of it too. Yeah. You know, it's incredibly fulfilling to help people. Excuse me. It's incredibly fulfilling to help others, and it gives you that kind of warm, fuzzy glow. It really does, and you know, I got a lot from that. So when I was saying, well, it didn't really affect my family that much. I mean, they had lots of boxes and stuff like that around in their corridor. My youngest has grown up with the corridor in our house being full of model kit boxes. The garage used to be full of them. The packing area used to be the back of the settee. So they just rolled with it. You know, I'm very lucky that they've don't push back.
Yeah,
and the wife obviously helps me, so she must enjoy it as well. You know,
with all this moving so fast and obviously growing so fast, how did the branding and the aims of M4H come about?
How the aims and the
branding.
Branding. Oh, okay.
Right. It's an unusual logo, isn't it?
It is. So when I was coming up with a logo, I was reading all these things about what branding is and what you need it to do and all that sort of thing. And what branding tries to do is just to give you reassurance. So if you see an image or a logo or a brand name, you associate that with an experience. And if you keep on seeing that brand and you keep on having a good experience, eventually you'll just go, "Oh, it's Models for Heroes. Everything's fine." Yeah. Right? And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. So just with the heart, what did I do? Well, I stole it from someone. Who did I steal it with? Here's a revelation for you. The Benevolent Fund, RAF Benevolent Fund, have a roundel, and then in the middle is a heart.
Yeah.
Right? I designed a different heart. So it was a different heart. I designed that from scratch, but I used the same red. And I discovered it was actually just Union flag red. So just, regular red. And so I used the heart that I designed, and then I just cut it in half and put it in a sprue, as if you were gonna, by making the model and putting it together, it gives you some compassion and an emotional connection, of love, and that's what a heart represents, isn't it? You know, caring and looking after somebody, and that's the idea, is that by model making, you're making that, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So we did that. The Models for Heroes name, we couldn't think of anything else at the time. I'd spoken to the head of communication at Help Heroes and said, "Is it all right if I use 4 heroes to set up this thing?" And they were like, "Yeah, of course, it's fine. Just go for it."
Yeah.
So that was good. So I had an informal thumbs up, and then we just used that logo everywhere all the time, and it hasn't changed in 7 years. Occasionally, I get brave and I put a drop shadow on it, or a bevel, or emboss it, or something. Give it a little bit of shimmy, but it stayed the same all that time, and I even got it registered as well, so no one can use it without permission, or shouldn't use it without permission. Yeah.
My favorite one is the May the 4th heart part logo.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, that was this year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Millennium Falcon.
Yes. Yeah, Millennium Falcon one. That was good. Quite fun. I made sure it was as generic as possible, you know. So obviously it was the Millennium Falcon, but it wasn't the Millennium Falcon, you know. just to make sure. And we only used it briefly on the website. I think we didn't make any merchandise or anything like that at all. We didn't raise any funds. It was just a kind of a cheeky nod.
Yeah.
To how much we all like Star Wars. Yeah.
How did you come about the aims, and what are they?
Oh yeah. So the aims I've got them written up here because they are very specific, and I can't always remember them word for word. You probably got them in front of you, I expect.
I haven't.
No. So when you come up with a charity idea, the charity's commission, which we are not a registered charity, we are a CIC, which is a community interest company. But when you come up with any idea for a charity, you have to have aims, and your mission needs to be written down, and that's what you have to do and stick by. So all the funds you get in are in pursuit of those specific aims, and so you write a sentence that fits them. So our aims, as written in our constitution, is to support former and current armed forces and emergency service personnel within the UK and overseas territories. Okay. And our second aim is to promote the use of model making as a therapeutic, meaningful activity. Okay. So it has to be within that bracket, you know. And it means that some people, unfortunately, aren't on that list. So, like general NHS workers, not on that list, for example. Prison officers, not on that list. Cadets, you know, they're not on that list either. So quite often we'll get people requesting support from us, but they're not in our remit. So we can't. We have to focus on what we do. But that came about from, everything that we were doing previously. And really boiling down what we were doing, and then that's where the aims came from. Yeah.
So speeding forward now to 2020, 3 years ago to the month after you made that life-changing decision, the world comes to a grinding halt and the country goes into its first lockdown.
Yeah.
As events unfolded, how did it impact M4H?
It was huge because we couldn't do anything anymore. What we had at the time, I think we had 40, or so face-to-face sessions, and the brakes were slammed on. None of us could go out. None of the veterans that we had attending these sessions could attend. Volunteers couldn't go out. No one really knew what we were doing because there was very little information at the time. So I mean, it was a mess, absolute mess, because all of our stock and stuff were in the buildings of a lot of organizations, you know, because they were storing it for us. But because they were now shut, we couldn't access those. It was unsure whether volunteers were allowed to get in their car and go and get those things and come back, because they were volunteering, so you were allowed to drive your car if you were volunteering. But I mean, you know, I could get around anything by saying I'm just volunteering, didn't I? You know, I'm volunteering to go out and get drunk. So, it was a bit flim flam. It wasn't exactly sure what we were supposed to do. No one wanted to do the wrong thing and make things worse, obviously. So what we did is we just kind of said, okay, well, what can we do? And we just had to change direction from our face-to-face stuff to online, because everybody, you know, most people had the internet at home, and that is how we could provide some sort of support through that way. So we started doing YouTube videos like this. We started doing Zoom sessions for beneficiaries, and we just pushed ourselves online, basically. Other people in the modeling community were doing online things too, and so we kind of just copied them and all did it together. I tried to make a calendar so you could almost watch modeling shows from morning till night, live ones, you know. All sorts of different people were doing these sort of live shows. So I think that gave people something to focus on, because they couldn't go out, and somewhere they could talk about how they were feeling and how crappy the situation was at the time. But that was really successful. We were still able to send stuff out. The parcel force was still working, so we became very busy with online stuff. It was great, actually, in terms of, you know, that once we had pivoted and worked out what we were going to do, it's actually, you know, really successful.
Excellent. So less than a year after that, you got a nice little surprise from a fairly well-known person from the UK, didn't you? Quite a big surprise from a certain person that lives in a certain or lived in a certain street at the time.
Oh, Boris Johnson. Yeah. So I assume that's what you're talking about. I received a Points of Light award from number 10 Downing Street, which at the time was Boris Johnson was in that office, so he was the one that signed the certificate, what we call it, which is nice, of course. It's now hung in pride of place in my bathroom, up on the wall. And that was cool, because that opened a lot of doors. So local press suddenly going, oh, we want to run a story on the Points of Light that you won, which is basically like a recognition of voluntary service, I think. Yes. So the national press wanted to get in on it, and so they ran an article. They came over the house, took photographs and stuff, and then when that went out, then the TV people got in touch and said they wanted to do an interview. So we did an interview for I don't know, your local news channels, you know. Can't remember what ours is now, but BBC Southeast or whatever. So I did an interview that, and then of course, the word got out more and more, and we ended up being filmed and interviewed for lots of different things, which then of course made us even more busy. Which is fine. That's when we started to do or request grants and things to help us out, because we just weren't able to keep up with the amount of people that were coming in and asking, and we didn't have enough space in the house, and it was madness. It was good fun though.
So that led to and the first major change really for Models for Heroes, didn't it, with getting the first premises?
Yes. So we had a grant from the Armed Forces Covenant Fund Trust, which is £32,000, I think it was at the time, and that enabled us to move to a premises, so rent somewhere other than my garage. And I chose somewhere very, very close, which is Greenham Business Park, which is the old RF Greenham. We had a premises, and suddenly we had loads of space, and I could ask a volunteer to come in and help me because we didn't have enough space in there. We had a mezzanine so we could store things, and I had the dream that everything would go out of my garage and it would be great. There's still stuff in my garage now. But, yeah, that was great because then we had the premises, and then we also had the money to pay for the internet and water and all that sort of thing. But we had the money to be able to run Zoom sessions and get the Zoom licenses so that volunteers could run their own Zoom sessions. And what we do is we have a Zoom session every single day, and we've had that since the beginning of COVID. And each volunteer who runs those Zoom sessions is their own little house. It's their own little studio. Yeah. So they could have a session on model making for commercial aircraft, for instance. Yeah. Not that you can't go there and talk about anything you want, but it's just that if you happened to be building a jumbo jet, then you could go there and he would give you loads of cool advice about building those things. And we have different volunteers doing different things like armor and like general modeling, and there's a ladies' night which we have on Tuesday nights, and they're all slightly different, run by different volunteers, and that's been really, really good, especially when people get their model box of models first, and they don't really know what they're doing with them. They can hop on Zoom and have a chat with someone who does know what they're doing and get the guidance and kind of pointers through that. Yeah. What was the question?
So now we're coming to the end of 2024, and Models for Heroes has had to move to an even bigger headquarters again. What are the stats looking like now, roughly, in terms of beneficiaries, face-to-face sessions, and volunteer numbers?
Okay, so 198 volunteers. 11,240 kits sent out.
Wow.
Since 2017. In terms of actual beneficiaries, I think it's 800. I haven't got the stats in front of me, but it's 800 or so. You probably know better than I do. Looking at we have impact reports on our website, and that's from last year's financial report when we do all the collation and stuff like that. But, it's a lot of beneficiaries, 800 plus, and that doesn't count the face-to-face sessions. So if someone that goes along to one of those, they're not counted on the list, basically because of privacy and GDPR, we don't record them, but it's 190 volunteers, it's 60 face-to-face sessions, and most of those are run by us in organizations, or a community center or library, and I think there's about 20 different organizations that have model making that we support. Yeah. With resources, but we don't actually have a volunteer going along because they have a staff member who likes to do it. So, that includes armed forces organizations, that includes hospitals, that includes prisons as well, HMP, all sorts of different places, hubs, other small charities for veterans as well. The bigger premises obviously is certainly helped us recently as we've got even bigger.
For those that haven't seen the bigger premises, if you go onto the Friends of Models for Heroes YouTube channel, Malcolm's done a tour video on there, so you can have a look around it.
I did, yeah.
With your crazy hairstyle at the time.
Oh yeah, I know. I've got time to mess around with things like hair. It's worth watching. So it's a really cool place.
Yeah. So speaking of beneficiaries, we've already discussed who's eligible, but how do they get themselves referred to Models for Heroes?
There's two pathways. Well, there's kind of three actually. So the easiest one is just to get onto the Modelers Mess, which is a Facebook page that we have. It's a Facebook group, and it's private and hidden. and it's a place where it's kind of run by volunteers, and it's a safe, quiet, non-political, non-religious group. You know, we try and talk about model making only in there, but you can get an invite as a veteran, or if you're a part of our remit, you can get invited. And just chuck me an email. I'm sure you put the email address at the bottom of the page somewhere.
Yeah, it's scrolling across.
Yeah, chuck us an email and ask for an invite to the group. As long as you're within our remit, then you can get in, and then from there on, you can decide whether you want to be a beneficiary or not. So the other way is to get self-referred. Just to self-refer yourself. I mean, you can go to Walking with the Wounded, and they will provide you with a referral to Models for Heroes. You just have to sign up. All the details are under Get Support on our website. You go to Get Support. Is it for you, for your client, or whatever? And you go on there, and there's a link on there for Walking with the Wounded. Or if you're under, if you're with a support worker and they're looking after you for whatever reason, and you're obviously within our remit, they can refer you. We have a link again on the website under Get Support that your referrer can go to, and that could be a key worker, somebody who comes around just to make sure you're okay. It could be a therapist, it could be a GP. As long as they're a professional that is has a professional concern for your well-being and thinks that model making will help you, you can get a referral. Try and leave it as open, as easy as possible. Obviously we have to keep records and all that sort of thing because of the finances and where the money goes, and we have to be accountable. So that's why we have to be sure we just don't send it out to anyone. But yeah, that's how it works. So hit the website, get support. If you can't find it on there, then just pop us an email, and I will answer it at some point when I get around to it.
So once you've had the referral, what happens from there, and what the costs involved for M4H?
Okay, so the referrals come to a spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets now. I have to do a lot of spreadsheet learning. It goes onto a spreadsheet, and then it might be along with 10, 20 other beneficiaries that have also referred themselves, or we've got referrals for that week. We usually do about 20 a week ish, which is a lot. But so you'll be on that list. Now, sometimes if we've got volunteers available, then you might be waiting a couple of weeks. If we haven't got volunteers available, you might be waiting up to 2 months for us to get to your name, you know, and then call you up, have a chat. So that's what we try and do. Is we'll call you up, we'll have a chat about what is your interest and what sort of things you like to build or might like to build. Sometimes people have no idea. It's like, I don't know, send me anything. And if they say send us anything, that's very dangerous because we literally could send you all sorts of weird stuff. Swedish submarines, you know, all sorts of weird, wonderful stuff. So beware. But we try and get an interest. We try and get a hook, because if somebody's got to sit down and build something, you want to build something you're interested in. So maybe something you worked on, maybe your grandfather flew or worked on, or that you saw at an air show, or a game that you've always wanted to play, or a film that you love, or even something like for your kids. If your kids like something, you know, build it for them. Then we try and find something that somebody would like, and then invariably we've got something that would work on our shelves, because we've got a lot of model kits in store. And that could be up to like 20 kits. That could be 5 kits. You know, it all depends on what's requested. I know that you spoke to somebody, didn't you, when you get referred? Or did you self-refer?
A local organisation referred me, and
right.
And then Chris rang me up, and I told him that I like World War One stuff, so I got a huge box of World War One kits.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the thing. You need to give us a specific request. Excuse me, a specific request, and then we can look and see what kits we have. Yeah.
I've still got the little 172 tanks that he sent me on my shelf finished.
Oh, right. There we go. Brilliant.
So what are the costs involved with each one of those initial packs?
Okay, so if you need them, we will send you out a set of resources and tools. Because if you're brand new to model making, you don't have those things. You don't have clippers and glues and stuff, around. So we'll send you the basic set, but we don't send you rubbish. We send you a good set of clippers that have the right safety mark on them. We will send you glues that are, available on the high street, but are good modelers glues, like the Tamiya Extra Thin, for instance. We'll send you a set of sanders, good sanders. We'll send you like an how-to guide, basically made by Airfix, or how to make your model from scratch. And that starts with washing sprues, and then all the way down to using decal solution and things like that. We'll send you, if we've got it, we'll send you some decal solution, some paints, some washes. Yeah, basically everything you need really to start a model and build it, I guess. Unless of course you've got tools and stuff, then we won't send them. The costs involved, so because we buy it a brand new, I think for a full kit now it's something about £37 per beneficiary per tool set, if you like. It's about that. The actual number changes all the time because the costs of cutting mats and things go up and down. You wouldn't believe it's like stock market, honestly. But we've got some really nice suppliers who provide us with glues and cutting mats and things like that at their cost. So that's nice. And I kind of spread that request and load across lots of different model shops and distributors, not focusing on just one. But yeah, it costs about 35 quid ish now for all the bits and pieces we send out, which is quite a significant amount of money. When you're talking about 20 or 15 to 20 beneficiaries a week, someone do the maths. That's a lot of cash. And then of course the cost of actually sending the parcel has just gone up too. So we have a deal with Parcel Force where it's just over £7 now. We can send a box anywhere in the UK, as long as it's up to a meter and it's not too heavy. Which is nice. They've helped us out a lot actually the last couple of years, since COVID. That was but yeah.
Excellent. So if somebody wanted to volunteer for M4H, how would they go about getting in contact, and what would they need to do?
Okay, so they need to decide whether they've got the time and the dedication to do so, because it requires more than just saying I'm going to be a volunteer. It requires time. It requires a dedication of time, and you might need to kind of change the way that you empathize with people, perhaps, because we require volunteers to be good listeners. We require volunteers to put their own opinions and thoughts aside. And we also require them to be very empathetic towards mental health, which they usually be anyway. So you don't have to be a good modeler. In fact, you don't have to be a modeler to be a volunteer for Models for Heroes. You just have to be a decent human being. But to become a volunteer, you would go to modelsforheroes.org.uk, which is the website. And under support, there's a little thing called volunteer, because you are supporting us. So that's why it's in support. In there is a list of roles and guidelines for the volunteer role. It's pretty inclusive. There's a lot there. It talks about all things like there might be DBS checks. You might be asked to handle money, all that kind of thing. So have a look for that. If there's anything in there that you find not agreeable, then don't apply. there's an application form at the very, very bottom of that page. And you click that, and that takes you to another Google form, which is lovely. Fill that in. We need 2 character references from anyone who's not connected to M4H and not connected to you by family. We require, and then we require a short phone call with one of our directors. Make sure you say who you are. You are who you say you are. And that's it, really. That's it. It's a lot of time dedicated. And obviously, you don't dedicate as much time as you have. Obviously, some people dedicate all of their day to volunteering for M4H. Some people only do something every now and again. They'll just share what we have on Facebook, and they'll like a post occasionally. But they're available to collect donations if they needed to be. They're available to go to a show that's nearby to them if they need be. That's the thing, I guess. You want to wave the flag for Models for Heroes. That's the way you do it. It's become a volunteer.
Yeah. If people want to support M4H in other ways, how can they go about that?
All right. Well, like I just said, sharing our post with your family and friends, talking to people anywhere about Models for Heroes and what we do. Just when you talk to somebody, the word of mouth is pretty important when it comes to trusting organizations. So if someone's had a good experience and they know what Models for Heroes does and they think it could help someone else, then do tell them. Let them be aware of Models for Heroes and what we can do, because we can't help them if we don't know, right? Other ways they can support, share our stuff on Facebook as well, and Twitter. But there's lots of things. So we have an Amazon wish list, right? These are all available on our website under Donate, big green button. And we have an Amazon wish list that you can use. Buy us a couple of kits or a bit of glue or something. We are we're a kind of eBay charity partner. So if you're selling something on eBay, maybe a model kit that you've made and you want to sell it off, you can set it so that a percentage of that goes directly to Models for Heroes. You can do that on the actual app. You can collect your flying hours from Airfix. On the side of Airfix boxes, there's a little, like a token thing. You can cut that out, send it to us, and we are club members, basically, for Airfix. And we get to ask for any kits that we want, really, within reason. We basically can convert all those flying hours into model kits for use with our beneficiaries. So, I'm trying to get hold of some Chinooks at the moment, so we need a lot. And every November at Scale Model World, we give them a big old bag of flying hours, which is fun. A couple of thousand usually a year. But that helps us and it helps them as well. So how else? So you can donate funds directly to our bank or PayPal. Details again are on the website. You could send us model kits too, as long as they are not started, not touched by glue or paint. Is our general rule. So if the kit has been cut apart, cut off the sprue and fettled with and sniffed and enjoyed by a modeler, that's fine, as long as it hasn't actually been started. Then we're not interested, because somebody's given a kit that somebody else couldn't finish. How they expect it to do it, so we have a special pile at M4H by the door for kits that we've had that are started. It's like a free for all. Anyone can have those. How else? Is there anything I've missed?
Donate kits.
Yes.
Donate and create.
Oh yeah. So when we go to museums, usually when we go to a museum and there's a model show or an event there, and we've been invited, we'll do a donate and create table, which is basically sit and paint figures or build models with us. It's all free. We just ask for a little donation in the bucket. So the latest one we did, it was at Tank Museum for their one of their events, a mental health event called On Track, and people can sit down and paint stuff with us. We get donated lots of figures and things and paint. So come and enjoy that. We do that all over the place. In fact, loads of places. Airfix, actually, they're make and take. They have a big bucket for Models for Heroes on their make and takes. So you don't have to pay, but you can donate money if you wish to. What else? Model kits is the bread and butter, though. That's the thing we need. All sorts of different types. No, there's no specifics. Anything that you have that you haven't touched has been sat in your loft as loft insulation for too long. Bring it down, pop it in a box, or take it to a model show that we'll be at. Or bring it along to your local model session if there is one.
Julian, one of our viewers, has just worked out that 800 beneficiaries means a bit shy of £30,000 bare minimum for the starter pack.
Yeah, I'd work that out. Yeah, absolutely. So I've moved off the page now, but if you go to Impact and Reports, you can see how much money we've raised over the last years. Everything's on Company's House. Financially, I think we report more than we're supposed to. We report according to the Charities Commission. So we have a bigger spread of stuff that we show where we spent the money. But £32,000 in what year was that? Can't tell. Between August 2022 and 2023. £32,000 was spent on model making, consumables, kits, dispatch, storage, and volunteer expenses. So if you are a volunteer and you have to drive somewhere, we will pay for your petrol. You just have to provide us where you were going to. So that's best practice for volunteers. We're part of the NCVO, which is the National Council of Voluntary Organisations. So one of those things is you support your volunteers so that they can support your beneficiaries. So
you don't take the mick.
No, and I'm always saying to people, bloody put your thing in. Put your claim in. You don't get a medal for not claiming, so put your claim in.